Rome, October 2nd, 2025. The streets of central Rome filled with the sound of chants, smoke flares, and marching footsteps as thousands of demonstrators poured out of the city's main train station. Their anger was directed at the Israeli interception of a Gaza-bound aid flotilla, an incident that has rippled far beyond the Mediterranean waters. For many in Italy's capital, the protest was not just a symbolic gathering. It became a decisive political act, bolstered by Italy's largest trade unions, which have called for a nationwide general strike on Friday, October 3. The demonstration started at Rome's bustling Termini station, where activists unfurled a massive banner that read, "Break with Israel, let's block everything, General Strike October 3rd, stop genocide." The slogan set the tone for what would become a day of intense protest and defiance. Witnesses described a crowd determined to make its voice heard. Protesters carried placards showing support for the flotilla, which had been carrying humanitarian supplies, medical kits, food and water to civilians in Gaza before it was intercepted at sea. From the early hours, small groups converged at the train station and quickly turned it into the focal point of the rally. Demonstrators blocked traffic outside the terminal, waving Palestinian flags and shouting slogans. Some chanted, "Strike, strike," as they advanced in waves, while others lit red smoke flares that filled the morning air. The columns of coloured smoke became a vivid marker of the anger rising in the heart of the Italian capital. As the day progressed, the protesters began a march from Termini station towards Palazzo Chigi, the official office of the Italian Prime Minister. Their objective was clear: to confront the government and demand a stronger stance against Israel's actions. When the marchers approached the streets leading to Palazzo Chigi, they were met by lines of Italian police officers. The scene quickly turned tense, with riot police forming barricades to prevent the crowd from advancing any further. For several minutes, the atmosphere teetered between confrontation and negotiation. Some protesters continued chanting slogans, including the provocative, "Whoever doesn't jump is a Zionist." Yet, after discussions between protest organizers and police, a compromise was reached. The demonstrators were allowed to continue their march, not towards the front of the Prime Minister's office as originally planned, but to Piazza San Silvestro, a nearby square that became the final rallying point for the day. Italy's major trade unions played a significant role in amplifying the call for protest. Several labor leaders have described the Israeli interception of the flotilla as a violation of international norms and a humanitarian tragedy that required a united response. Union representatives emphasized that halting work for a day was necessary to send a clear message. Their appeal for a general strike on October 3rd has gained traction among transportation, education, and public sector workers, threatening to disrupt key services across the country. A labor organizer in Rome told reporters that Italy could not remain passive in the face of what he described as complicity in violence. He warned that the protests would continue if the government did not demand accountability from Israel. The Gaza-bound flotilla, often referred to by its organizers as a peace convoy, carried essential supplies intended for civilians trapped in the besieged Palestinian enclave. According to international relief groups, the flotilla included tons of food, medicine, and water purification kits. Israeli authorities have defended their decision to intercept the convoy, citing security concerns and the need to inspect the cargo to prevent weapons from entering Gaza. However, critics argue that the interception violated maritime norms and deepened the humanitarian crisis in the region. Among the protesters in Rome were students, union activists, and human rights campaigners. Many carried hand-painted signs depicting children in Gaza, while others waved Palestinian flags as they chanted slogans against Israel's actions. A 22-year-old university student said the protest was about standing with civilians in Gaza who have been denied food and medicine. He added that seeing the flotilla stopped had left him angry and determined to speak out. For others, the demonstration represented frustration with what they see as Europe's inaction. A nurse participating in the march said she joined because this is not just about Gaza, it is about humanity. Our government must do more. The march, which began in the late morning, moved through some of Rome's busiest streets. Demonstrators carried banners and megaphones as they passed by shops and cafes, often greeted by residents leaning out of windows to watch the procession. From Termini, the protesters advanced towards the city centre, but the police blockade near Palazzo Chigi diverted them. After the agreement was reached, they moved into Piazza San Silvestro, where the demonstration culminated in speeches, chants, and the lighting of more smoke flares. By late afternoon, the crowd began to disperse. Marchers passed back through the historic tunnel leading from the city centre towards the train station, with some still carrying flares alight as a final gesture of defiance. Images of the protest, particularly the banner at Termini station and the scenes of police standing guard near the Prime Minister's office, were quickly picked up by international news outlets. The demonstration became one of the largest expressions of solidarity in Europe since the Flotilla's interception. Video clips showed protesters surging forward as police formed lines to block their path. Other footage captured moments of negotiation and compromise, as well as the final scenes in Piazza San Silvestro. While the protest was centered on the Gaza Flotilla incident, it also reflected a growing discontent within Italy over the country's foreign policy stance. Several left-leaning lawmakers expressed support for the demonstrators, accusing the government of failing to hold Israel accountable. Critics within the political opposition have called on Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni's administration to issue a stronger condemnation of the interception. Government officials, however, have stressed the need for diplomacy and dialogue rather than confrontation. The protests, combined with the planned general strike, have placed the government in a delicate position, caught between domestic pressure to act and the constraints of international alliances. Throughout the day, one message resonated clearly from the streets of Rome: solidarity with Gaza's civilians. Protesters repeatedly said they wanted to ensure that humanitarian aid could reach those in need without interference. As dusk fell and the last demonstrators returned to the train station, the lingering haze of smoke from flares served as a reminder of the day's emotions: anger, defiance, and a call for justice. In the words of one protester, shouted through a loudspeaker as the march moved towards Piazza San Silvestro, "Break with Israel. Let's block everything. General strike October 3rd. Stop genocide." It was a message echoed on banners, in chants, and on the faces of thousands who took to the streets, turning the Italian capital into a focal point of a growing global outcry. The Rome protest, sparked by the Israeli interception of a humanitarian flotilla, underscored the depth of public sentiment in Europe regarding the crisis in Gaza. It also highlighted the potential of domestic movements, fueled by unions and civil society, to push governments to reconsider their foreign policy choices. With a nationwide strike looming, Italy now stands at a crossroads between maintaining diplomatic caution and responding to the moral urgency expressed by its citizens on the streets of Rome.
Blocchiamo tutto! Fermiamo la città oggi! Domani! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
Per la flottiglia! Per rompere ogni complicità!
Siamo arrivati dal Cavour occupato! Siamo arrivati! La stessa che ha visto 200.000 persone in piazza solo a Roma il 22!
Quindi a Giorgia Meloni, alla vista opposizione in questo paese, che questo alternativa vuole rompere.
Che non sta dicendo che vuole fare delle cose criminali.